as you know, I'm not typically a big fan of value plays at pitcher and MLB DFS because usually value plays are value plays for a reason, and they're not guys who can jump out there and generate a 60-point game. Today, not only do we have one value pitcher I feel really good about, there is a second guy who was actually my number 3 pitcher for tonight. And honestly, I might rank those guys close to 2 and 3 straight up before even accounting for their salaries. Both these guys lower than $8,000, and I think they grade out really well for today. So if you want to spin down a pitcher, this is your slate. Welcome on into the solo shop. That's right here on the FanDuel Podcast Network and numberFire.com. My name is Jim Sonis. I am a senior writer and analyst for numberFire.com, here to preview Tuesday's 14-game main slate with lock set for 7:05 for tonight. Now, I say I'm excited about this slate, but I will note there are a lot of moving pieces. There are like 4 teams that have not announced their starter yet for today. One of them is known. It's Hyun-Jin Ryu for the Blue Jays. But, there are a lot of teams that have not announced their starters. We're going to go through those situations in Things to Watch, let you know which names to keep an eye on. But I think it's a game or a slate where you're going to want to come back for the 4 p.m. show today. YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Twitter. Of course, Brandon Gadula kicking things off at 3:30 there, talking the PGA Championship, which is coming this weekend. So we'll talk betting and DFS for that, DFS preview of that. Coming up in the Heat Check today on the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed and recording live on YouTube at 10 a.m. Today is a slate where there are a lot of things in motion, so make sure you swing back 4 p.m. following Brandon to talk about today's slate. Also, there is some weather to note. There's a chance of rain tonight in Minneapolis for the Twins and the White Sox. Looks like it won't get there until later, so we should be okay there. Kind of similar in Chicago. The rain appears more scattered there. Check back on that one later. Rain is possible in St. Louis for the Cardinals and the Pirates. It's kind of the opposite where looks like the rain will be rolling out around first pitch. Check back on that one. And finally, Kansas City looks like some chances for light rain there. It does say it's light, though, but it's throughout the entire game. That's annoying because I'd love to use Brandon Woodruff there. He's the one high-salary guy I adore, but it appears light, and they might be able to play through it. So there's rain. There are unannounced starters. There's a lot of stuff going on. So I think, again, I'd recommend swinging back today for the 4 p.m. stream. FanDuel, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Twitter to get that. The 2021 NBA Play-In Tournament is officially underway, and FanDuel and Netflix have teamed up to add yet another layer of excitement to the winner-go-home round. Introducing FanDuel's free NBA Play-In contest presented by Netflix's Army of the Dead, a free-to-play NBA fantasy contest spanning across all 4 nights of the Play-In tournament. The contests are simple. All you have to do is build your best 9-player roster while staying under the salary cap and compete against other users in the contest for your shot at $25,000 in cash prizes. And as an added element, Netflix is providing an Army of the Dead bonus where if a lower-seeded team comes back from the dead and wins their matchup, all users who participated in the contest on that night will receive a voucher to play in a paid NBA playoff contest and earn the right to take home the ultimate prize, a big payday, courtesy of the Army of the Dead. The games tip off in just a few hours, so head to FanDuel.com and download the FanDuel Fantasy app and enter the free NBA Play-In contest presented by Netflix's Army of the Dead today, and check out Army of the Dead starring Dave Bautista, Ella Purnell, and Omari Hardwick only on Netflix on May 21st. Eligibility restrictions apply. Pitching preview for this Tuesday main slate. Brandon Woodruff, as mentioned, is the highest salaried pitcher on the slate at $11,000. Zach Wheeler is 10-4 on FanDuel. Lance Lynn, $10,200. Julio Urias is $10,000. Christian Javier, Hyun-Jin Ryu, Patrick Corbin, Zach Plesac, and Blake Snell are the others at $8,000 or higher. Now, I think Woodruff is a really solid option here, and I know I talked about the value plays. I do like them a lot. I still think that Woodruff is number 1 after accounting for salary for a couple of reasons. He's a guy who can get a lot of strikeouts here, and I think that's enough for me to rank him first. But it's not like a hard first where I'm only focusing on Brandon Woodruff. He's one of the pitchers who kind of goes counter to our creed here on the solo shot where he uses a decent number of sinkers. That's annoying. Sinkers generally aren't good pitches, but he's been doing this for a while, and it's never caused him any issues. It's put another huge season on the plate here for Woodruff. He has a 2.88 skill interactive ERA with a 33% strikeout rate. And the one thing the sinker does do, limit hard contact, kind of limit damage when batters do put the ball in play. And that's been the case for Woodruff, who has allowed a 4.6% barrel rate this year. Even though his ground ball rate has gone down, the barrel rate's still very, very good. You just can't get hard contact against him. He leads the slate in skill interactive ERA. He ranks second in strikeout rate. Facing the Royals, and there are a couple of factors at play with this matchup. The first thing is that he has to face a DH because this game is in Kansas City. That's a downgrade from a strikeout rate perspective. They're also just a middling strikeout team. They have just a 23% strikeout rate versus righties. The trade-off here is it means that Woodruff won't have to leave for a pinch hitter here. And that's a bonus. He is capable of going deep in games. He went 103 and 98 in his past 2 starts. He just doesn't always get the chance to go deep because he has to hit, and sometimes he has to leave for a pinch hitter, especially in a Brewers offense that could use some good bats. That's not a concern tonight, given this game is in the AL. If you gave me the choice of this game being in Milwaukee or in Kansas City, facing a pitcher versus facing a DH, I'd prefer him to be at home facing a pitcher. So this is a downgrade. I just can't downgrade him too much, as there are some things to bump him up, specifically the pitch count being elevated with no pinch hitters being needed. The only concern I really have is the weather, so keep an eye on the rain. Delays are much more of a concern for pitchers than for hitters, so just make sure that game will play before committing to Woodruff, but I do think Woodruff, even with the presence of some good lower salary guys, deserves to be number 1 on our list. Number 2 is where we get to the value plays, and I was big into Jameson Taillon last week. I thought he was way too low salaried for a guy with his strikeout upside. He did get knocked around. He let up 4 earned runs. He left after just 4 2/3 innings, so I was wrong. Didn't get that one right. But the strikeouts were still there. So I'm going to bang my head against this wall one more time and rank Taillon as my number 2 pitcher on this slate at $7,000 and my highest ranked value play for tonight. He's facing the Rangers. They're another high strikeout matchup. They have a 27% strikeout rate against righties. That is the 3rd highest mark on the slate, and Taillon's getting plenty of strikeouts. For the season, he has a 3.13 skill interactive ERA, a 31% strikeout rate. He has a higher strikeout rate and a better skill interactive ERA than a lot of the guys above $9,000, and he's $7,000. He's also fully stretched out now. He's gone 99 and 95 pitches in his past 2 starts, and that's why he has upside. The reason Taillon is down here, and the reason I still prefer Woodruff if given the choice, is that Taillon is giving up a lot of hard contact. And as we saw with the Rangers last night, they can generate that. They got to Garrett Cole. They can get to Jameson Taillon too. He has allowed a 12.5% barrel rate this year. That is among the highest marks in the slate. Might actually be the highest mark. It is the highest mark. That's not great. And that's why I can't get too high in it. But I think the reason that I can still go here is that he has the same ceiling as Woodruff. Like, they both have the best or a similar true ceiling. The difference is Woodruff has higher odds of getting to his ceiling than Taillon does because he allows less hard contact. So even with the salary discount, I'm still going to favor Woodruff over Taillon, but Taillon's ceiling makes him worthy of exposure tonight. And I think, again, he's a number 2 pitcher on the slate. I would not be shocked at all if he wound up being the highest scoring pitcher straight up. So Jameson Taillon, to me, $7,000, the number 2 pitcher for tonight behind Brandon Woodruff. My 3rd ranked guy, as mentioned, is actually another value play as well. This one is Andrew Heaney. And Andrew Heaney is similar to Taillon, where he has a lot of flaws as a pitcher. There's a reason he is $7,600. But some of those flaws are partially negated by his matchup for tonight. He's facing Cleveland, and they have been just brutal against lefties this year. They have a 76 WRC+. They've generated minimal hard contact. Carlos Rodon had his no-hitter against them. That's good news for Andrew Heaney, specifically the hard contact aspect, because he gets obliterated, blasted whenever people make contact against him. He's allowed an 11.6% barrel rate. I believe that's number 2 on the slate behind Taillon. It is awesome. We're going to be sweating some fly balls for tonight. If the opposing team doesn't make much hard contact, though, it does bode well for Heaney. That's especially true with the strikeouts he's getting. He has 7 starts this year. He has a 34% strikeout rate. That is actually number 1 on this slate, ahead of even Woodruff by half a percentage point. And Heaney can also go deep. He went 110 pitches 2 starts ago. Cleveland's not the highest strikeout team, so they don't boost upside for opposing pitchers. But what they do is boost the floor. And that's the biggest issue that Heaney has because the ceiling is there. He's hit double-digit strikeouts twice this year. He has scored 50 or more FanDuel points 3 times in 7 starts. You don't usually get that ceiling from a guy whose salary is $7,600. So again, it's not a perfect profile. Even Cleveland could make hard contact here because Heaney has a lot of issues there. They don't strike out a ton, but there is enough here for me to take swipes at $7,600. I would not go to value plays if I didn't think they had an elite ceiling and an acceptable enough floor. I think we had that with both Tyone and Heaney for today. I will still go Woodruff because he's a full package with the limited hard contact against him. But if I'm going Woodruff in cash games, I have more flexibility to go with some risk in tournaments. There is risk with Heaney and Tyone, but I think they're worth that despite that. So to me, it's Woodruff 1, Tyone 2, Heaney 3 as my top ranked pitchers for tonight. We'll talk about one more value play in things to watch as well. Stacks are dicey because, again, I don't know who is starting for 3 teams, I believe. So we might add to this list later on in the 4 p.m. show. I'm going to go through the stacks for the starting pitchers we know right now. Definitively, these guys will be starting, and definitively, I am okay stacking against all 3 of these guys. But from a ranking perspective, they could get bumped down once we know more. Specifically, the Diamondbacks I'm keeping an eye on. And also, I think the Phillies could wind up being interesting. So keep an eye on them. We'll talk about them in the 4 p.m. show. But as far as the pitchers we know right now, I feel good stacking against Matt Harvey. We've seen him come back to earth a bit recently. He's still doing a decent job with contact suppression, but the mistakes he's making are turning into runs. And I think that means we can stack the Rays tonight. They do get a park factor upgrade. This game is in Baltimore. Temperatures in the mid-70s. That's better than Tampa Bay, so that's a good thing. Harvey's strikeout rate has been low all year long. It's been 17% for the full season. He has a 6% walk rate, which means Harvey is letting up a ton of balls in play. That's what we want for stacking. His ground ball rate is reasonable at 44%. He's gotten by, just basically because of the contact suppression. He is still maintaining that. It's not moving in the wrong direction, but basically the situation we have with Harvey right now is he really has no room for error with that batted ball suppression. He let up just 1 barrel to the Mets last week, but they still scored 7 runs in 4 1/3 innings. And despite how frustrating the Rays have been at times, they are a good offense. They have a 109 WRC plus against righties. We no longer have Yoshi Tsutsuga there for me to make mistakes on him. That's a plus. They get lots of hard contact, lots of fly balls. They just strike out too much. That's their big flaw. But Harvey doesn't get those. So I want to give them a crack today to see if they can bring the regression likely coming Harvey's way. So to me, the Rays do grade out really well. Now, when you look at Harvey, if you pull up his FanGraphs page, go to the splits, check out the platoon numbers, you're going to see, oh, hey, wow, righties have done really well against them this year. They have a 370 WOBA, whereas lefties are at 238. Don't buy into those numbers. Specifically the WOBA, it's misleading because the strikeout rate for Harvey is lower against lefties. He allows a higher hard hit rate and a lower ground ball rate, and those numbers are in line with what we saw in past years. So we very much want to be in on the lefties for the Rays tonight, despite the fact that Harvey, from a numbers perspective, has struggled more against righties. It's the lefties we want. So Austin Meadows, Ji-Man Choi, Brandon Lau, Joey Wendell are the main targets here. We do want to be really in on the lefties for the Rays tonight as our top options here, and we can get to them for sure. Meadows, no sweat at all. I really do like Manuel Margot among the righties, so I'd probably be okay with him. Getting the stolen base upside's good. He's making good contact this year, but Meadows, Choi, Lau, Wendell going to be the main attractions for me in stacking this Rays team for tonight. I have stacked the Nationals plenty recently, and it's come with varying degrees of success, which makes sense because they're just a 91 WRC plus team. But I think we have to go back to them once again tonight. They're facing Zach Davies, and Davies is not the pitcher he was last year. His strikeout rate is down 10 percentage points. His walk rate is almost doubled. And I'm not expecting the strikeout rate to rebound too much. It will go up because he has a 7.8% swing and strike rate. That's more in line with about a 16% strikeout rate. His CSW percentage is 23.1%. That's better than what you'd expect for a guy with a 13% strikeout rate, but it's still well below the league average for a starter. So even when the strikeout rate does rebound, it's going to be below average for a pitcher right now. And The low strikeout rate has led to rough results and rough peripherals. He has a 5.60 ERA with a 5.83 skill interactive ERA, and his expected ERA at Baseball Savant is actually even higher at 6.58. We've seen Davies get some better results recently, but those came against Cleveland and Pittsburgh. I know Washington's not a great offense, but I would rank them above Cleveland and Pittsburgh. I think that it's a bit misleading that Davies had those good starts against those teams. So to me, it's not a big concern that he's gotten better recently. So I think it's wise to stack the Nationals here and see what happens. Now, Davies is a guy, unlike Harvey, where I would expect the righties to be better here. He uses a lot of changeups, and that often leads to reverse platoon splits, and we do see that with Davies. Righties have a lower strikeout rate and a higher hard hit rate against him. Lefties still work because they're putting the ball in the air more often, but I would bump up the righties here a smidge when balancing between the two. Not a concern for Juan Soto or Kyle Schwarber, but like if we're talking about Trey Turner, we can get to him today. I also think it bodes well for Yan Gomes. I've been using him a decent amount, and it's actually working out. He has a 10.1% barrel rate this year. He is $3,000. That is much higher than I expected when I pulled up in the player pool, but I still think that he's worth a look today. Probably not someone who will be on a lot of radars. So Yan Gomes, good tournament play specifically for tonight on FanDuel. The third stack for me is going to be the Yankees. I still don't want to go here, which is why I was kind of hoping we'd have clarity on some of the other teams that don't have announced pitchers yet, because I don't want to go here. Losing Giancarlo Stanton is a big buzzkill for this offense. We saw that last night where they had a good matchup and still scored just 2 runs. They've got another good matchup tonight, and they're facing Mike Foltynewicz, so I'm okay going at them, but I would not be shocked if the Yankees are down as low as like 5th in my stacks tonight once we get further clarification on the other starters elsewhere. But this is why they're in play. They're facing Foltynewicz. Looks like another guy who will allow a lot of balls in play and allow enough hard contact to stack against. For the full season, Foltynewicz has a 21% strikeout rate. His barrel rate against is 10.9%. He's been increasing his changeup usage. He's still throwing it just 12.5% of the time over his past 5 starts, but it's a shift up for him there. And the barrel rate has come down to 9.7% in those 5 starts, but the strikeout rate is also down. It's at 19%. I'd probably rather have a slightly higher strikeout rate with the higher barrel rate against, but it's not the worst trade-off in the world. It's still a high barrel rate, still above average. We've seen some teams get to Foltynewicz too, specifically with the long ball, and the Yankees, despite losing Stanton, still have some guys who are capable of generating those. So I'm willing to stack the Yankees here and see if they can get by without Stanton. But I think the one thing to be cautious of for the Yankees is we need to be picky with the value plays. Aaron Judge, easy to get to today, given the salaries of the pitchers. So get to him. But I think we should be picky with the other guys. I like Gio Urshela. I'm okay with him. Clint Frazier works. I am warming up to Gary Sanchez as well. Those guys work for me. I'm okay with them. But I'm not touching Brett Gardner. I don't care if he's batting leadoff. I don't care if he's batting both third and fourth. I do not care. I don't want to use him. As always, DJ LeMahieu, not my favorite piece. I use him largely because second base is bad. It's not because I want to get there. So what I would say to the Yankees is be picky. They have fewer good options available to us. Don't take guys who have low salaries just because they have low salaries. So to me, I didn't mention Luke Voigt before, but I like Luke Voigt, Gio Urshela, Clint Frazier, maybe Gary Sanchez if he plays. I think that's the list outside of Judge. Be picky with the Yankees. Don't use guys who lack upside like Gardner and I think at least DJ LeMahieu. I think you should focus on the guys capable of hitting a home run once or twice in their lives. Use them instead of the other value plays here. Be picky when you're stacking the Yankees. Things to watch. I don't mind Blake Snell's matchup tonight with the Rockies. I just have a couple too many red flags in his profile. Like, you pull up the player pool, see Blake Snell at $8,000, see him facing the Rockies, probably going to say, well, why are we going to Jameson Taillon and Andrew Heaney? But Snell has some similar red flags, and actually even one more, because he's giving up the hard contact like them, but also he's walking a lot of guys. Snell, 15% walk rate, 10.7% barrel rate against. He's also not getting like a full leash. His max pitch count this year is 95. He's top 90 just twice this year. So I think it's realistic to a scenario where Snell is awesome today. The Rockies are better against lefties, but they're still not great. So he could do really well tonight. I just feel better about Taillon and Heaney among the value plays, and I'd rather get to Woodruff. If he had one red flag, if it were just the walks or just the hard contact, cool, sign me up for like Snell. But I need to see him chip away at one before I get super enthusiastic, preferably a higher pitch count too. So let's run through the teams that do not have an announced starter as of tonight, just to kind of give you a red flag in your brain of which places to look later on today once starters are ideally announced. Diamondbacks are one. Could be Merrill Kelly. I believe he'd be on regular rest. They have a couple guys in AAA they could call up. If it's Kelly, I'd want to stack the Dodgers. Despite all their injuries, they still have some good players. So keep an eye there. If it's Kelly, likely on the Dodgers. If it's a AAA guy, probably on the Dodgers too. Do downgrade them a lot given the injuries, but they're still a team I would be looking to stack. The Mets are a team that's TBD. It could be Thomas Shaputsky. He is on regular rest at AAA. He is on the 40-man roster. He looks decent, and the Braves are definitely better against righties and lefties. So I'm not really turning here for stacks, given Shaputsky's a lefty, given he looks okay. So the Braves are worth monitoring for stacking, but not a team I'm thinking always stacking. And the Marlins are also TBD. Cody Poteet might get the start if they put someone on the injured list. He probably is someone we'd stack against. So I think that you're looking here mainly at the Dodgers getting a bump up and then keeping an eye on the Phillies, depending on who the Marlins start. So Dodgers and Phillies teams to look out for. I'd love to move the Yankees down my list, but I think those are the teams you're looking for today. We'll have a better read later on today in the 4 p.m. show. Hopefully we can give you more firm answers with regards to the ranking of the stacks. That is at 4 p.m. YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Twitter. Just search for FanDuel on those platforms. Subscribe and get notifications as we go live, and come in with your questions later on today, and check out Brandon's stuff at 3:30. Also, again, we are back at 10 a.m. on YouTube talking about the PGA Championship from a DFS perspective, letting you know our favorite plays for this week over on FanDuel and how we think that the course will play for this week. If you have additional questions for me, I am on Twitter at JimSannes, JimSannes. You can also follow the FanDuel Podcast Network at FanDuel Podcast. Big thank you to Calvin Theobald, our video producer, for setting up the video broadcast for today. Thank you, Cal, as always. And thank you to everyone for tuning in. Good luck to you with your MLB DFS lineups for tonight. We'll talk to you once again on Wednesday. This has been the solo shot right here on the FanDuel Podcast Network.